Greetings, mind crafters, and welcome to what I hope to be another exciting Minecraft discussion today. Oh, look, can you see the goats? Two of them are out. King Lear's taking a snooze. That's Hamlet and Caesar. Anyway, okay. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I'm super excited to talk today about being aware of your emotional home. And I actually just tried to do this one out in the woods earlier, but we had a little rain situation. So, anyway, we can be out here on my back deck and talk about it because it's a really important topic, one that I can definitely relate to myself. So Tony Robbins talks about it. I mean, people phrase things in different ways, right? Wayne Dyer definitely talks about it. Joe Dispenza talks about it. Oprah and herself and many guests have talked about it. So it's basically, we're talking about the vault of the unconscious and the fact that, because it is a fact, you know, kind of the Minecraft mantra, that thoughts come first and feelings second, followed by actions or behavior last, right? And so Joe Dispenza especially talks about, also Tony, about roughly 95-ish% of everything we think, say, and do on a daily basis stays exactly the same because we don't challenge it. We don't challenge these monkey mind thoughts that are coming from the vault of, you know, things, early messages that were said to us by, you know, parents, other family members, friends, even before we had expressive language. It's all in there, just because feelings, we have feeling memories too. Then there's the media, you know, it just comes from all over the place. And so if we had and if we had any kind of dysfunction going on and any kind of childhood injury going on, we learn pretty quickly, you know, how and where to get the good feels from and all that. So that's kind of where, you know, the cycle usually starts. So when I'm talking about emotional home, I mean kind of that default mental emotional place where we land when something trips our cord. So, and there are all different kinds of messages. Most typically, I would say, the number one would be shame, and there are a gazillion messages of shame. We'd have to do a whole lot of episodes to cover all of those. That's definitely where mine resides. And also, deprivation is another one. Scarcity. So scarcity, let's just say that. Because there are so many ways to be poor. Certainly not making light in any way of financial scarcity. Absolutely not. That leads to all kinds of little offshoot ways of scarcity too, obviously, with resources and self-esteem, and it just goes on and on. So holding that one up high, and adding with time scarcity, love scarcity, again, self-esteem scarcity. These can be all interconnected. And so coming from a place of that not enough feeling, and it can definitely be overlap with shame. And so here's the thing, we're going to keep attracting that stuff until we kind of go within, which is how we win from within. So we got to go within first. We've got to sort of bring that stuff into our conscious awareness in order to make any kinds of changes. We have to become aware of when we're in certain social situations at work or at within the family or out in the world doing whatever, that when we have our, we kind of have our cord tripped, like, ooh, you know what, I'm feeling that right about here-ish. That's exactly where I usually felt the shame feeling. So, and Tony Robbins talks about it too, that when we, land in this place, for me it's shame. Let's just stick with that example. So there's lots and lots of ways to experience shame messages, and they're like little tree forts. Shame can show up as guilt and blame, anger, resentment, arrogance, because definitely arrogance, that's a big one, and so it just shows up as all different kind of ways. For me, the message was one of, we don't want you, because I got very strong messages as a child of, we don't want you. So some of them were implied and some of them were just straight out verbal. And so it takes a long time to work through these things, definitely a lot of my life. But here's the thing, it's a gradual process, right? So the universe, or God, for me it's God, for universe, I say universe, or source, capital S, or however you want to say, but that divine connection will keep sending us, say hi little G, will keep sending us quizzes until we get the 100%, we pass with 100%. And so you might start out getting, let's say somebody attracts bullies, or somebody, um, there's also a million codependent messages we could use. Somebody is feeling so unworthy that she keeps attracting jerks into her life that don't treat her well. Okay, so we keep getting quizzes. Maybe you get a 1 on this out of 10. Maybe then you go through some life stuff and curveballs and some good people into your life. Maybe you get some professional treatment, which would be great. You get a 3 on the next one, a 3.54, and you keep getting closer and closer. And here's the thing. You can get all the way up to a 9, a 9 out of 10, and then what happens is the quizzes just get harder. they get harder because you're almost there. You're spiritually advancing, and you're so strong, and you're feeling so good in your skin, and it's feeling so great. And then all of a sudden, here comes another one. And so we keep going back to that emotional home, that place of comfort, which is a weird comfort. We're talking about a dysfunctional situation. So we become, especially if we've had, well, pick whatever the message is, we become comfortable hearing those messages, because especially when they're coming from parents, or the closest people to us, right, or whoever brought you up, because we internalize that stuff, and we learn early on how to try to get that love, how to try to get the good feels, which when it's dysfunctional, we're kind of pulled out of ourselves, and we're doing all kinds of inauthentic stuff to try to get what we really need. And so that's where it all happens. So for me, with the message of we don't want you, I'll tell you the story that happened. It wasn't that long ago, just a couple years ago. And I would swear at this point, so I'm 58 now, let's say it's 56, it's in that range of something. And my rooftop friend, those of you who have read the 7 Days article, my rooftop friend is relatively well known at this point. I just talked to her last night, actually. So she and I, in our 50s and we've processed this stuff since we were kids, actually. Hence the rooftop name. We used to sit on top of the roof as little kids, like 6, 7, talk about, because she had some hard stuff going on too. And we just, thank God we had each other, actually. The wisdom of 6 and 7-year-olds, like who really knew? But anyway, we were on the phone last night talking about it even. And so I called her after this thing happened. I was working on a project, and a couple years ago, and mostly everybody was really great. And there were just a few pricklies on the project, and their verbiage towards me was just not nice. It was kind of mean-spirited and exclusive, and but also petty, also very petty. And I thought to myself after it happened, because I went home and I had tears in my eyes, I'm like, why is this bothering me so much? Because mentally I know better. What people say is about them, not me. I got all that, and I was like, why is this like feeling like it's hitting my bone marrow? And I had like a 9.8 on this quiz. Like really so self-aware. I'm feeling great in my skin and all this other stuff. And still they tripped my cord with something that was just stupid, right? And it's because some of the things they said just really they were mean. They were intentional and mean. But again, normally if I didn't have, like with some other message, I'd be like, go with God, blessings and whatever. But they tapped into it a little bit. And so I thought about it. I told my wonderful husband when I got home, and then I called my rooftop friend right afterwards. And I knew what it was. I'm just like, wow, I thought I aced this quiz. And I had to the point of 9.8 out of 10. And it was just the universe, God source saying, okay, just, you have this much more to go, Because I had reverted to my emotional home of we don't want you. Their messages, they didn't come right out and say we don't want you. Their behavior was clearly leading me out of this thing, and it was very overt and in front of other people and stuff like that. And again, petty, they looked worse than, they're the ones that looked bad, but it was just ridiculous. So anyway, the emotional home thing is that we land right back there. Until eventually we really 100% check the box, with the quizzes and that there are just no more to be taken, because that's the thing. So I'll tell you my little trick. Obviously, I've done a ton of work on myself, all the way from being, with my rooftop friend since like 6, and then St. Mike's, and then I got some really good counseling there, and I've surrounded myself with amazing people. My cabinet of family or of origin and chosen are just some of the most amazing people that God's ever created. I'm just so blessed. And so I've had all this good stuff going on, so here's another thing that has really helped me, and I wanted to share it because I kind of had this, I don't know, I just kind of came up with it, and it's really, this is back when that thing happened, so I'm grateful because, again, those few pricklies in that moment that was obviously coming from them, because hurt people. Didn't have to do with me. It was unsolicited. It was just one of those things. They don't get a pass. However, after I got past that, I reminded myself that life happens for us, not to us. Life happens for us, not to us. And I must have needed that little tiny extra push to just finally close the chapter. So I'm actually grateful. I don't want to relive their unkindness or anything. And in my head, I did this whole go with God, loving kindness mentally. They don't know. I just kind of sent it out there. And I was grateful that I had that one little push, and now it's kind of done. So I'll tell you how amazing this works. And you got to be at this point, I think, for it to work. But I did this. I just created this visual. I guess you could call it a meditation, but I'm more of a mindfulness person because I'm not about creating a thought vacuum. This is more visual imagery. Why don't we call it that? Mindful visual imagery. And so I came up with this myself, and I pictured my childhood home in a neighborhood about an hour outside of New York. And I pictured, because there's houses like you borrow an egg distance just everywhere. And I pictured house and the lot where with the yard and everything where my house was. But I pictured the house gone, not burned up and violent or bad. There's no negativity in this. It's all positivity. I just pictured it like a missing tooth. Like, here's that neighbor's house, here's that neighbor's house, here's the across the street, and there's this missing tooth. And in the missing tooth part, there's no structure there anymore, but just wildflowers, beautiful, beautiful wildflowers. And it's, the lots are small down there, so just a small lot was, and then in the behind the house, in the distance, was a beautiful smaller range of mountains. So now I just pictured the wildflowers and the mountain range. Then I pictured myself at different ages. I was in overalls at maybe 8 with high tops, and then again at 58 in high tops. I have them on now, actually. Still hobbling around a little bit with my boop, or healing away. And so then the visual, I didn't do it for a very long time. I focused on the feeling. Just like, I feel so comfortable in this place that used to be so excruciating and toxic, also with violence, just excruciating, blatant messages of we don't want you and all this stuff. And I could actually stand there, sit in the grass, gaze up at sky top on the mountain range. It's this stone structure on the top of the gunks, as they're called, down there, and it's just so peaceful now, just unwavering peace, and it's fantastic. And so I really wanted to share that with you, because I'll tell you, that would happen a little bit ago, like I told you. And whenever I get a wave of, whenever you get a wave of shame, you should seek higher ground anyway. Call somebody in your cabinet, and just to have that healing visual has been awesome, because I'll tell you something. This will show you the contrast, or explain the contrast. Way back when I was, driving back from St. Mike's to go visit my friends in Jersey, my rooftop friend too. I drive past that exit on the New York State Thruway. This was back when I was, 18, 19, 20, 21 22 years old. And I literally just driving past the exit. I wasn't even going to stop and see the toxics. I was driving to visit my good friends in Jersey and my rooftop friend. I would literally, just driving by, I feel like I was going to puke all over the seat. I felt so sick, because just driving by all that toxicity. So let's say 36 years later, it was a little bit ago. So let's say 30 something years later, to have this visual of wildflowers in that spot, and just no agita whatsoever, and can actually this visual is also inviting just pure peace after such a very, very toxic, turbulent, abusive childhood with these messages of we don't want you. And so I wanted to share that with you because, again, it's certainly not about blaming anything on anybody, for old stuff. Hurt people. We know that. And there was a lot of mental illness and narcissism and addiction and just bad. And so even grateful. Obviously, I wouldn't want to relive that, and wouldn't want to relive any of it, just like most of us. I am incredibly grateful for how it all turned out in the end, because I've never been more comfortable in my skin. It just gets better every day. I love my 50s, looking forward to 60s, and it's great. Wonderful husband, 5 amazing young adults, and now a little grandbaby Isabel, and it's all worked out great. And just the other thing with coming out of all that and then having all that peace on the other end is when you go through all that, like adversity in general, right? We become better people. We become better, more empathetic human beings. And so for this, I'm also grateful, and just for all the deep relationships I made through the whole thing, because people are so good-hearted, sharing their life stories with me, and helping all the angels along the way. And so that's why I want to share it with you. I let go of the toxics like a helium balloon a long time ago with love and kindness. Go with God. I'm sharing it with you so that hopefully my story will also help you, because that's just how it works. That's really how it works. I would not be where I am today without all the love and kindness from my families of origin, my fabulous 5 young adults, and Isabel, and my wonderful husband's family, and also my chosen family. Mostly made up of my St. Mike's crew and my rooftop friend. So there you have it. So you want to be aware of what your emotional home is. Awareness is everything. We cannot do what we don't know, right? We can't do what we don't know. And what my dear friend Dr. Dave says a lot is, once we have the awareness, we have the responsibility. So once you get it, you start making steps to move forward, and think of a lovely visual once you're ready. Beach, mountains, something where you can feel somewhere. Maybe the childhood house thing wouldn't work for you if that's too hard. Don't do it, right? You gotta, and not in place of any professional treatment. We all know that. But to have that nice visual where you can feel safe, that is just, it's just very strong and helpful for me. So that's it. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from my deck on this beautiful day in northern Vermont with little Giovanni. Have a mindful day.